world's oceans are as vast as they are deep and contain an infinite amount of mysteries that have yet to be discovered. Over the years, scientists have uncovered strange findings and unusual artifacts. Let's take a dive into the top 15 mysterious artifacts found underwater. Number 15. The Ice Fingers of Death. Back in the 1960s, scientists found some pretty strange-looking things coming from cracks in the depths of the icy seabed. What looks like a sea monster's fingers reaching up from the ground to snatch you are really just brinicles, which are icicles made from brine. The brinicles, which have become known as the Ice Fingers of Death, occur when the saline water, which is denser than the water that surrounds it, sinks to the ocean floor and freezes in the fresh water when it comes into contact with it. The brinicle sinks down to the seabed, and any sea creature that may come into contact with it along the way falls into its clutches, freezing it inside, giving it its spooky nickname. Some sea creatures commonly caught by the fingers are sea urchins and starfish. And to make things even more interesting, scientists believe that these brinicles may be able to maintain conditions capable of sustaining life on other planets and moons, according to the already otherworldly aspect of the Earth's oceans. Number 14. Elongated Skulls, Mexico. Cenotes are deep water-filled sinkholes that are created by the collapsing of the roofs of underground limestone caverns and can be found all over the waters of Mexico. One of these cenotes in particular, found in Saquayum, in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, has been on the locals' radar for decades. But what makes it so popular? It's actually a place that many have feared to tread until 2012, when a team of divers found some pretty sinister artifacts. They came across two specific chambers of the cenote that were full of human bones and deformed skulls. After some serious research through the annals of history, National Geographic came out saying that those chambers were used for human sacrifices centuries ago by the ancient Maya. And the deformed skulls were the product of a very specific method of execution that flattened the tops of the victims or even the volunteers' cranium. Despite the mystique of the area's gorgeous cenotes, this is one place you don't want to stumble across. Number 13. Yonaguni Monument, Japan. In 1985, in the ocean surrounding Japan, a group of divers found something unexpected, to say the least. Instead of a school of fish, an octopus, or even a shark, they found the ruins of the Yonaguni Monument. The structure has since sparked some serious debates among scientists, but the marine geologist at the University of Ryukyu in Japan, Masaki Kimura, has said that it's the equivalent of the lost city of Atlantis in Japan. It is a well-known fact that the island nation of Japan is susceptible to earthquakes and has suffered some major ones in the past, and the case of Yonaguni is no different. According to Masaki Kimura, the Yonaguni Monument was once part of an ancient city that fell victim to one such earthquake about 2,000 years ago and sank into the ocean. But Kimura's theory has sparked some debate among scientists and researchers, many of whom believe that the structure isn't man-made, but a natural formation. But with so many layers, hard edges, and what look like staircases, that may be hard to believe. Number 12. Baltic Sea Anomaly. In the summer of 2012, Swedish treasure hunters traversing the deep waters of the Baltic Sea found something in the seabed. The thing is, nobody's been able to identify it since. It looks like something from a science fiction film come to life. Theories have since run rampant on the internet about what's been dubbed the Baltic Sea Anomaly, with the most popular claim being that it's just a crashed UFO. The Swedish-based Ocean X team was taken to task to identify just what it could be, but they're still unsure. One more realistic theory says that it could be something as simple as a glacial deposit or a meteorite, but the head of the team, Peter Lindberg, has a more fun and mysterious theory. He stated that there is in fact a large stair formation, which leads to the possibility that it could be man-made. If that's true, then the Baltic Sea Anomaly could very well be another sunken and lost city similar to Atlantis. And if that's the case, then the once city has to be tens of thousands of years old. Number 11. The sunken city of Dwarka. Another underwater city on this list, the sunken city of Dwarka, has been 100% confirmed as real, and it's easy to see why. One of the best and most studied sites in India, it's considered one of the 4 dharmas, or sacred places of pilgrimage, in the Hindu religion. In Sanskrit, Dwarka translates to the city of heaven, and according to the same literature, it's a city founded by Lord Krishna. Dwarka is found on the coast of northwest India and dates back 9,000 years. That's 4,000 years older than the known Indian civilization itself. The city of Dwarka is accessible to divers at 36 meters below the surface, and they'll be treated to the sunken city's magnificent architecture, much of which is still intact. There are plenty of archways, staircases, Hindu shrines, and statues of lions and bulls that are now home to many of the ocean's creatures. Number 10. The Lost City of Heraklion. The ancient city of Heraklion was mentioned here and there in Egyptian texts and inscriptions, but its existence had never been confirmed. An archaeologist by the name of Frank Goddio spent years searching for the alleged city off the coast of Egypt, but had continually come up short. But in the year 2000, advancements in undersea screening technology revealed the lost city of Heraklion submerged 6.5 kilometers off the coast. Divers searched the area and found lots of gold coins from the era and the ruins of 64 ships. The most interesting archaeological find, though, is 16-foot statues of Egyptian gods like Hapi, the god of fertility and lord of the river. It may be a fitting end, then, that the statue ended up underwater. But then how did the ancient city meet its fate? In typical fashion, scientists say it's likely that an earthquake or the subsequent tremors brought the city of Heraklion to its knees. Number 9. The Black Sea's undersea river. When you think of a river, you think of a body of water that runs through the land. But in 2016, researchers found a much more interesting kind of river. In the Black Sea, they uncovered an undersea river that's 350 times longer than the River Thames in England. Scientists from Leeds University sent an underwater robot to uncover the mystery and saw that it had carved out its own deep channels like a river on land would. The river has rapids, waterfalls, and can be as deep as 115 feet in some parts. It's the first of its kind, and if it were on land, it would be the 6th largest river in the world. But how is this even possible? Well, the answer is actually quite simple. The specific area of the Black Sea has a much lower salt content, so the undersea saline river has a much higher density, allowing for the separation. We are constantly adding more people to the Top 5's production team to bring you all the best content. Be sure to subscribe with notifications on and hit the like button. Number 8. New Jersey's Train Graveyard. What many people don't realize is that salt is a preservative, and of course the ocean has lots of it. So then it shouldn't come as a surprise that the 1850-era locomotives 90 feet underwater on New Jersey's coast have withstood the test of time. But what makes these artifacts so mysterious is no one knows how they got there. There are no records of any trains lost, let alone built in the area during that time. The train's smokestacks and engines are still as intact as they were almost 200 years ago, despite being covered in barnacles and rust. But the trains had to have gotten there somehow, right? Some researchers have theorized that the trains were being transported by boat from Boston to the mid-Atlantic, but when a bad storm hit, the crew had no other choice but to cast them overboard to save the boat from capsizing. Thankfully, the trains found a watery grave as opposed to the sailors on board. Number 7. Antikythera mechanism. This mysterious deep-sea artifact was found by divers over 2 centuries ago in 1901 and had researchers, scientists, and archaeologists scratching their heads for another 100 years. 3 pieces of bronze that easily could have passed for moldy rocks had sat under the sea for about 2,000 years. When put together, though, they held a series of toothed gears and rings divided into degrees. This is the Antikythera mechanism. It turns out the Antikythera mechanism is an analog computer used by the ancient Greeks. It took X-ray technology to solve the mystery. The Antikythera mechanism was used as an, at the time, sophisticated calendar and computer that mapped the solar and lunar calendars and counted down the days till the Olympic Games. It's about the size of a mantle clock, with knobs that are used to turn its hands with interlocking gear wheels, and even inscriptions on how to use it to read the moon and the planetary phases. Pretty amazing, even by today's standards. Number 6. 2,400-year-old boat, Black Sea. It's become pretty obvious that the Black Sea holds countless treasures, pieces of history, and mysterious artifacts. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that in 2018, undersea archaeologists discovered the world's oldest intact shipwreck, more than a mile below the surface. The lack of oxygen at those depths prevented rust from occurring, therefore fully preserving the 23-meter-long vessel. But the mystery of the ship's identity remained until researchers found some striking similarities on a piece of ancient Greek pottery called the Siren Vase in the British Museum. This means that the ship dates back to ancient Greece, and potentially the myth of Odysseus comes to life. The rudders, rowing benches, and the mast where perhaps Odysseus tied himself up to resist the temptations of the Harpy's song remain in near-perfect condition on the 2,400-year-old vessel. Number 5. Lake Michigan Stonehenge. Stonehenge is a famous historical site in England and a world-renowned tourist attraction. But it's a one-of-a-kind place, right? Think again. We're sure that there are plenty of strange finds under the murky waters of Lake Michigan, but no one was prepared for this. In 2007, a professor of underwater archaeology at Northwestern Michigan College, Mark Holley, found another Stonehenge right in his backyard. He found a series of strange stones 40 feet below the lake's surface, all arranged in a circle. And what was even more mysterious about the underwater artifact is that one stone in particular had a carving of a mastodon engraved in it. Mastodons went extinct about 10,000 years ago, meaning this U.S. Stonehenge could be as old as the creature. To this day, no one knows exactly what the stone circles are or who put them there. Number 4. City of Pavlopetr. It's one thing to find some old ruins in the ocean's depths, but entire towns? Now that's a different story. According to the scientists, the city of Pavlopetr in Greece is about 5,000 years old, but it's not just buildings that have been left behind. There are also streets, courtyards, and even tombs that cover 50,000 square miles. Researchers and historians believe that the city of Pavlopetr was once a thriving coastal town that was an important trading harbor on the Mediterranean Sea. The ruins of the city itself were discovered in 1967 and mapped out the next year by Cambridge archaeologists. But it wasn't until 2009 when scientists discovered late Neolithic pottery, which has allowed them to date the city so far back and is even one of the oldest submerged cities to date. The underwater ruins and its artifacts are so vast and intact that it gives us a pretty concrete insight into what life was like for the 5,000-year-old coastal city. Number 3. RMS Republic. In 1903, the RMS Republic steam-powered ocean liner was built, and just 6 years later in 1909, it sank, never to be found again. Rumors circulated that the ship went down with tons of treasure that today could be worth millions, if not billions of dollars. But what exactly was the cargo? Well, the RMS Republic was better known as the millionaire ship because of the wealthy passengers on board. And while 1,500 lives were saved during its sinking, all of their jewelry and valuables sank to the ocean floor. It wasn't until the 1980s that scientists and divers found the wreckage. But the real mystery of the RMS Republic is that to this day, despite the number of wealthy artifacts on board, no one has been able to recover the vast amount of wealth reportedly traveling on the ship. Number 2. Bimini Road. Beneath the crystal-clear waters of the Bahamas is an incredibly strange and mysterious stone that spans for about a half of a mile that has become known as Bimini Road. Bimini Road was discovered by a subsea archaeologists and diving team led by Joseph Mason Valentine in 1968, and many believe that the road could lead to the lost city of Atlantis. Adding to the lore of the Bimini Road, in 1938 the psychic Edgar Cayce predicted that someone would make an amazing discovery, complete with ancient temples in the years 1968 or 1969. And as we now know, that prediction came true. To make things even more mysterious, the name Bimini appears multiple times throughout ancient Egyptian texts. Could this road lead somewhere that only the ancients knew about? Possibly. But what is more likely is that this half-mile road of large stone slabs is simply the result of nature and erosion. Number 1. Wendover Archaeological Site. Finishing off our list is perhaps the most mysterious and most morbid underwater find. But for this one, you won't need to traverse the seabed in order to uncover it. In 2016, divers found lots of human bones in a peat bog in the Gulf of Mexico and Florida. They reported their finding to archaeologists who did their own research and determined that the bones were at least 7,000 years old. After doing some more research, they found that the peat bog was used as a burial site all those years ago. And while it was originally above ground, the shifting tides and sea levels submerged the site under the Gulf's waters. Luckily for the researchers, the water of the peat bog preserved the human remains, which included skulls and even brain tissue. After doing a little more digging, they also found artifacts like textiles and arrowheads, and even 37 separate grave sites. Luckily, the Wendover Archaeological site is now protected and only available to researchers to further uncover the history of the people who once resided there thousands and thousands of years ago. Watch our Obscure playlist for more top 15 videos about the more obscure subjects in our world. Sit back, relax, and binge watch all of our best and most obscure videos.